And you are here for the session called Bridging the Gap, Pathways to Addressing Socioeconomic Barriers for Arts Engagement. And our panelists are starting Fortune Smith from the New England Center for Circus Arts, Roberto DiDonato and Kate Manis from Shakespeare in the Woods. And we're going to talk about economic barriers and how we can maybe ease them for more access to the arts. So we just wanted to go around the room. We'll pass the mic and just, if you would, introduce yourself so we know who's in the room and maybe why you're interested in being in the session. Can we start here?
I was just in the last panel, but if you weren't here for the last panel, I'm the executive director of Marble House Project, which is an artist residency, and I'm very keen to make more bridges with the community around Marble House, and I'm interested in crossing the barrier of socioeconomic concerns, so yeah.
Hi, my name is Benjamin Weiss. I am the program director for a new arts and community center called the Meeting House at Cornwall in Cornwall, Vermont. And I am super passionate about the financial and cultural accessibility of the arts. And I am looking for just new ideas and ways that I can serve my community and find this new organization to serve that community.
Hi, I'm Nicole Ullman. I am on the board of the Vermont Dance Alliance, and I'm also one of the founders of the Marble Valley Dance Collective. We're based out of Rutland. We started a couple years ago, and we're just looking to give adults, new and former dancers, the opportunity to take class and perform in our area. And I feel like Rutland, there was something on Brave Little State about just the image and reputation of Rutland, so what can we do to get rid of that? Through dance, of course.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Bex. I use they, them pronouns. I work for the Sable Project as the community engagement organizer. I'm also an artist, as I'm sure all of you all are as well, but always thinking about how do we pay artists what they deserve to be paid, but how do we offer things to the community in a way that is accessible to them financially and otherwise. And so that's why I was drawn to coming here.
Otto Pierce with the Sable Project, also it's an artist residency. Echoing what Beck said, more or less. And also, I suppose, because we host artists, how to make it more financially accessible for folks to be able to attend our residency as well.
Candace Jensen with In Situ Polyculture Commons, residency in southeastern Vermont, and just really interested in finding different ways to meet artists where they're at, provide stipends when possible, make sliding scale more feasible, all these sorts of things.
Hi, I'm Vic Johnson. I'm with Barn Arts in Barnard, Vermont. And I feel like, what folks have been saying, just really interested in how we can sustain our organizations while also making sure that folks are getting paid what they deserve and that things are accessible for everybody.
Robin Chantel, Executive Director of Cold Hollow Sculpture Park. We're a 42-acre art park in northern Vermont. Solo artist David Strohmeyer has been making work for 55 years. We've got 70 different sculptures on the property, and I'm brand new there, first-time executive director, and they have been saying free all this time, and we've pivoted to pay what you wish, but my goal, I've been working in public programming for years, is to connect people to the arts, make it accessible without barriers, and that includes, of course, paying artists, but not feeling people can't come because they can't afford it.
Hi, I'm Wiley Garcia. I'm an artist, I'm a consultant, I'm a curator. I am currently the director of the Champlain College Art Gallery. I also consult a lot with emerging artists, and I'm here because I am interested in reducing the barriers for all of the resources that are out there for emerging artists, mid-career, and beyond.
My name is Rachel Schiffer. I'm the Executive and Artistic Director of Circus Smirkus. Kind of my interest around this session was kind of accessibility for organizations as well as for participants, and how do we, like, if we can't show up in a way that feels manageable, how do we also show up for the community that we serve in a way that feels meaningful and true to our mission statements?
Hi, I'm Jess Wilkinson. I run the White River Craft Center in Randolph. We are an art center with artist studios, exhibition space, and many other things. And yeah, this has been, I grew up in the town where the craft center is, and they're socioeconomically it's pretty divided, and it's we're a big town, or bigger town in a very rural area, so figuring out how to reach all. That's something that's always on my mind.
Chloe Powell, I'm the Executive Director of the Chandler Center for the Arts in Randolph, and we have a 560-seat historic venue. It's been around the building's been around for 120 years, and we've been operating as a nonprofit for 50 years. And so we have a certain reputation of maybe being inaccessible and elitist. The hall is built for unamplified classical music, but we don't solely program that. And so we've been experimenting with a lot of different pay scales. We do a lot of pay what you can tickets, sliding scale tickets. We have tiered pricing. I'd rather fill the hall with people paying $10 than have only less than 100 people paying $45. So I guess a challenge is just getting that out in the world, that you can come for $10. You can come see a really cool Pink Floyd tribute tomorrow night for just $10. But act fast.
Good plug. I'm Vincent Freeman, owner of the Underground Recording Studio and Listening Room, also in Randolph. We've had shows at this listening room. It's a 49-seat basement venue for the last 3.5 years. And there's definitely crossed my mind as far as making those shows accessible to all. It's an all-ages venue. But the musicians need to get paid through ticket sales, and the venue also has some operating costs. I kind of dedicate my time. And then also in the studio, as time evolves, I feel that I need to charge more to make a living from this, but still my mission is to make it accessible for musicians to be able to record their music, because that's what my origin mission was of that studio. So some things to figure out.
Hi, my name is Amy Lee. I'm the outreach representative for Senator Peter Welch, and I'm here just to learn from you and hear about the issues and challenges you guys are facing, and hope to learn a lot about your experiences here so I can bring it back to the Senator and the rest of my staff.
Hi, I'm Neha Shukla. I'm here as an artist, and I've been having conversations with other friends who are artists about, at a much smaller scale rather than institutional, just how to, make a living and at the same time keep, have workshops and art experiences be affordable. And we've been talking through different models of doing that, or whether it's having a little scholarship fund or offering a series of free workshops parallel to more involved paid workshops. So I'm just curious to hear what people have to say.
My name is Linda Townsend. I'm a visual artist, environmental artist, and I'm in the middle of a large-scale art project, and I want to know how to integrate the community so the work can be more impactful.
I'm Allison Coyne Carroll, Director of Middlebury College's 107-year-old Performing Arts Series. We are a sub-program of the Mahaney Arts Center, and one of our 4 stated organizational goals is to increase cultural access, both for artists and audiences. So thank you for being so on brand today.
I'm Natalie Dreyer. I'm the Executive Director of Next Stage Arts in Putney, Vermont, and I got a caffeine kick and missed the prompt. So can I ask what the prompt
across to us. Oh great, that was me. I gave myself away. Man, if you haven't heard of Next Stage Arts, it is a historic church that was renovated into a great performance space that also has a community room. That's literally the name of it. And this year we're really exploring more community connections in our rural town. We have to figure out how to be all things, both a high-level performing arts center as well as the space where we have town supper once a month. So all things happen in one room.
Hi, Danielle Devlin, Candice Major Music. I am an agent and artist manager working with about 30 artists from around the world and touring them in the US and Canada. And a lot of folks have no idea that this job even exists, and that somehow presenters and artists just naturally connect all over the world. But I am an essential connecting person, helping to make incredible events happen, and it's what I consider an honor and a privilege to do that. But it's becoming increasingly challenging, especially working with international artists.
Hi, my name is Ian Campbell. I am a music artist and also the board chair and unpaid general director of the Friends of Historic Memorial Hall down in Wilmington, Vermont. We are relaunching this year as a performing arts organization from a number of years as being a knock on the town's door and tell them what they need to do organization. And so as part of that, a lot of this is about, a lot of what we're talking about is how we bring the arts to people in our area that isn't, I'm not going to say it's a poor area. We have Mount Snow. I mean, there's plenty of money there, but there's also a lot of not money there. So, you know, how do we kind of bridge the gap and serve both?
Did anybody get missed who wants to introduce themselves? All right, thank you. So I'm going to introduce myself a little bit more thoroughly. My name is Serenity Smith-Fortune. I'm one of the co-founders of the New England Center for Circus Arts. We're all the way on the other side of the state, about 3 hours away in Brattleboro. We are the largest circus training center in the United States, and we have programming we have a silver circus class for 65 and up, all the way down to youth classes, starting at when you're a year and a half old. We also have a 3-year professional training program, so our students go off to tour with Cirque du Soleil, on Broadway shows, with Pink, all of that. So it's a very broad organization, but when I saw the opportunity to offer conversations to this convening, I thought, I'm interested in how people are bridging this gap to the community, and I'd like to share what NECA is doing, more because I'm also curious what everyone else is doing, because I can't say that we have all the answers. We just have a few things that we've been trying, and not all of them land, so it's sort of a case study. So that's me in a nutshell.
Hello, I'm Roberto Di Donato. I'm currently cosplaying. I grew my facial hair out to be taken seriously. I work with Shakespeare in the Woods. I'm the managing producer. I'm also a graduate student at Yale in the School of Drama studying management. And before that, got another master's in directing. So I'm an artist at heart and found my way into arts management recently. So.
Hello, I'm Catherine Manus, or Kate. I love both names. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm the founder and producing artistic director of Shakespeare in the Woods. We're in Manchester, down in Bennington County, and I am also an actor working in New York City, and I grew up in Paulet in Rutland County. And we'll share more about us a little bit later.
Thank you. I'm gonna probably stand a lot because I've been sitting. So you're welcome to make yourself as comfortable as you need to. You can move closer, you can stand, you can stretch. We're gonna start by doing a quick slideshow, and through this, I might be able to share with you some of the things that we're doing at NECA. So this is a picture of the New England Center for Circus Arts. It's a custom-built trapezium, we call it. It's based in Brattleboro. It's right between exits 3 and 2 off of I-91, and it's open almost all the time with all of our programming, so please come and stop by. So we were founded in 2007. My identical twin sister is Elsie Smith, and I started at when we finished touring with Cirque du Soleil and started to settle down a little bit. And so we're based in Brattleboro. It became a not-for-profit in 2007, and we are a 501c3. Someone commented on running a not-for-profit. I think was that you? We should talk. So I have a little bit of experience running a not-for-profit organization. I also run a production company called Nimble Arts, which is for-profit, but that will be another conversation for another day. We have 60+ employees, including 8 full-time staff members. We have thousands of students, and they all show up in this building. So we try to get better at telling people what we do in the community, because when you say we have a circus school, it doesn't really resonate. So we, last year, our impact in the community was we gave $38,000 in financial aid distributed across all of our programs. That's aid specifically that was given. It does not include all the free classes or all the free tickets that we give away or the free shows that we do. We have 2,150 students of all ages, and I did mention our Silver Circus class. That's a new program that we've been doing out in the community. It's free to anyone who identifies as silver. So you're welcome to join us. We do 50+ performances and community events every year. You can see pictures from the bottom here. For example, we're collaborating with Next Stage Arts next weekend. Today in Brattleboro, as part of the townwide Brattleboro gallery walk, we're doing free flying lessons there. So that's just a small example of what we do out in the community. And we also do performances in our space. This is an image of it as a teaching space, but it transforms by bringing in seats and chairs and curtains and lighting and becomes a performance space. And I need to mention that this year is our 2nd year of doing the Vermont Circus Festival, so November 1st through 8th. We are being recognized as a signature event by the state Department of Tourism, and so that is an example of one of the production events that we do where we bring in companies from all over the world to perform. I've mentioned a few of these. Silver Circus is our older adults. We have youth camps, we have adult intensives. Where we have the most robust financial programming is what brings people from all over the world. So our local classes tend to operate at a loss, and our international, national workshops are where we're able to support those free things that we're able to do for the community. So in this day when travel, especially by our students who are concerned with the political climate, we're seeing a strain on that revenue source. So I mentioned the Vermont Circus Festival. Put it on your calendars and come down. Our Pro Track is our professional 3-year programming. There's some images from the tour that we did. The image at the top, I think, was actually taken at Highland Center for the Arts, where we did a residency for a week with our touring company. We have a youth troupe where we have young people who are aspiring to be performers. Some of them end up going to Circus Smirkus. There's like a circus ecosystem in Vermont. We're all friends together. I just got to see one of our graduates actually 2 days ago on a Broadway show, Serafina. Yeah. And then we have recreational classes. So anyone who lives nearby can come and take classes. We have 40+ classes a week. Yeah, it's a pretty big endeavor, so you're welcome to stop by. And then these are just some images from the work that we do. The image on the top left is a community event that we do for free in collaboration with the Brattleboro Museum and Art Center every September. So that's an example of one of the free programs that we do. I'm going to talk a little bit in the context of how we try to then bridge this gap. My big question that ends up happening for me is that we offer scholarships. We offer free tickets to our shows. We have discount codes that we send to partner organizations so anybody can come and get tickets. We offer a free volunteer spot for every single performance that comes through. So anyone who wants to usher gets a free ticket. We've done all sort of what we think of as the traditional models of trying to get people in the door. We've moved to sliding scale tickets for half of our shows. And then the challenge is for the people who really, really need support, who don't even think to ask because they can't even get to your doorstep. How do we get this information to them? Where is it on our website in a way that somebody who doesn't even have access to a computer can find out that we actually have free opportunities? So this is that gap that I am hoping to hear some ideas that people have. Some things that we've done is partnering with other organizations who actually serve those communities. So there's a refugee support group in Brattleboro that we work directly with them. We just give them a block of tickets and they can come in and use them however they want. We work with a Boys and Girls Club and they help us fill any empty spot in a camp. So it's kind of a standby opportunity. So the week before we open up the camp, our camp director calls up the Boys and Girls Club and says, we've got 10 spots, give them to whoever you think needs it. And those have been very, very successful. But what's really important about that is that you have someone on staff that you're paying to keep up those relationships. These things require a lot of commitment and a lot of time. And as we know in not-for-profit organizations, the people who you're talking to change often. So it takes a lot of commitment from an organization to say, we want this to be front burner. We want the person who does our outreach to go out and make this happen. I think that's enough for me. I'm going to pass it on to you and hear some case studies of what you've found to be successful.
Hello again. Let me switch slides. Sets over. So, as Roberto and I said, we're from Shakespeare in the Woods. We are a subversive, queer, professional outdoor theater company. We're going into our 6th year of programming. We started in 2019 and then immediately took a couple of years off. And so we in our mission statement, one of our core tenets is making work that is accessible regardless of socioeconomic and geographical standing, because we are in this beautiful rural state. And so the two issues kind of exist side by side in our minds, that socioeconomic and what township you happen to be in and what county you happen to be in really informs what art is going to be accessible to you, and are you about to drive an hour or more to see a show, in our case. So, as I just said, founded in 2019. So our log line is that we are an outdoor theater company committed to leading bold theatrical experimentation through a modern, radical, and gender-expansive queer lens in pursuit of a reimagined Shakespeare canon for the here and now. So we're doing modern, very queer Shakespeare outside in a very beautiful tree-lined lawn. And we invite both artist and audience to imagine the text as new work entirely. We like to joke and say we revere the text, but we're not precious about it. There's a reason we're still futzing with this 400-plus-year-old text. So we're motivated by the question, why this play, why now? And the potential that we see in the connective thread between the original text and the relatable themes of our modern moment. we get really excited when there's someone in the audience who has traditionally thought Shakespeare isn't for them and maybe doesn't think theater is for them. That's when we get really jazzed.
Yeah.
Do you want to share?
Sure.
Yeah.
I love this picture. It's from Richard II, which I directed last year. And it was, Richard was married to a man, and they called the man Queen, which I thought was pretty funny and pretty on the nose and awesome. But our mission is to provide exceptional quality art that celebrates and interrogates text through the exploration of contemporary social issues and themes. We aim to make bold and innovative art that is accessible to all audiences, regardless of socioeconomic or geographical standing, as we've said, and to produce art that fosters communal catharsis, social well-being, and expand all of our worldview. With that in mind, our core values, which are things that I've been taught, you're willing to go to court for, which is we are artist forward, we believe in accessibility, sustainability in the ecological sense, visibility, innovation, and queer. I think, well, we will get there, so I'll keep my mouth shut.
So what we're here to talk about is in 2024, so our third consecutive season after coming back from that time that we don't talk about. We previously in 2019 and 2022, we had a fixed general admission ticket and a 12 and under fixed price ticket. In 2024, we introduced a sliding scale ticket model using framework originally created by Alexis J. Cunningfolk. And that framework, we're going to get into it, has really been instrumental in introducing a sliding scale to our audience population and beyond. It includes 4 different price tiers. This switch has been a game changer for us as well as for our audiences. We've been very fortunate to get direct feedback from audiences about what a difference it has made to them. And I think the big thing that Roberto and I believed in before we introduced it, but then we have tangible data of, is that sliding scales are not to be some scary thing for an organization. They can be so great. We also, it wasn't said, we function as a nonprofit. We are fiscally sponsored by the incredible Center for Arts and Learning, which is headed up by Pam. So nonprofit theater is a whole can of worms, and we could also get into that at some other point, but...
They offer a master's degree at Yale for that, if you would like to say.
But we've talked about it extensively, and we've heard from other folks in the nonprofit theater world that sliding scales can be a really intimidating thing. Is it about to ruin the organization? There's this mindset that you're somehow, it's ironic because it's a financially unstable industry to begin with, but that somehow like that model is going to tank your finances, and we have the data that says that's not true. So after 2 seasons of using it, we see the importance that it can have for arts organizations as well as our audiences. Yeah, we can summarize this quick. Yeah. So the really important thing that we believe about a sliding scale for it to work is that you have to have the framework. If you just say generally to your prospective audience, we're doing pay what you wish or pay what you can, everyone's gonna have a different understanding of what that means, and even the difference between pay what you wish and pay what you can is a big difference. So we're very clear about the language and that we use a pay what you can and what that means in terms of being honest when you're engaging with it and being accountable with yourself, because we believe that community thrives when accountability is a central value. So we lead with this in explaining our model.
I'll speak in a minute.
Okay. All right, so, okay, great. So what should I pay? That's the language when we start to break this down on our website is like, okay, I understand, but like, what money do you want me to give you for this ticket?
Yeah, okay, so we start to frame things from the person who's gonna buy a ticket's point of view. So it's important to understand the differences of what we're talking about in order to like adopt the model that suits your organization. So like Kate said, we say pay what you can, which helps us help people determine what price is fit for their life in their current financial situation. So we use these things here that you can see. We define basic needs as means of food, housing, healthcare, and transportation. And then we define expendable income, meaning ability to buy coffee or tea at a coffee shop, go to the movies or a concert, buy new clothes, new books, or similar items each month, more or less. So we say pay what you can, and we offer it in a 4-tier category. We say true cost at the very top, tier 1, which is between $90 and $100. So when you click to buy that on our website, you put in $90 or you put in $91, but the 90 is the bottom end of that tier. It's might be kind of small, so I'll read a little bit. It says, I'm comfortable and able to meet all my basic needs. I may have some debt, but it does not prohibit attainment of basic needs. I own my home, or I rent a higher-end property. I own or lease a car, or I can always afford public or private transport. I am employed, or I do not need to work to meet my needs. I have regular access to healthcare, I have access to financial savings, and I have expendable income. I can afford to take vacation or time off. So if that sounds like you, we recommend you pay this cost. And we say true cost because every year we start with our expense budget, and this is how much people need to be paying in order for us to produce our work. Can everyone pay that? No. Which is why we offer other tiers. So I'll quickly go through some of the other ones. The bottom end of tier 2 is $60, which is I'm able to meet my basic needs. I have some debt, but it doesn't prohibit attainment of basic needs. It's very similar. I own my home, I lease a car, or I can afford transport. I'm employed or self-employed, and I have access to healthcare. I can afford to take a vacation without a financial burden. Then tier 3, I would probably fit myself into this category. I may stress about meeting my basic needs, but still regularly achieve them. That's where it starts to really change. It says I have some debt, but it doesn't prohibit me from attaining my needs. And then we have tier 4, which is $0 to $15, and I frequently stress about meeting basic needs, and I don't always achieve meeting them. I have debt, and it sometimes prohibits me from meeting some of my needs. I have unstable housing. I sometimes can't afford public or private transport. That was a piece of paper, giant piece of paper. I'm unemployed or underemployed. So these are the 4 categories we have on our website. I will say, and maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves, whenever I talk about this organization or the work, say I'm like, hey, you should come see our show. And you're like, oh yeah, maybe. Like come, you can come for free. Like literally, if you can't afford a ticket, I'll get you a ticket. So we also have this ethos of we will not turn you away. If you show up and you're like, oh, I didn't have any cash, I didn't know I was supposed to bring cash. We're like, okay, we'll get you a seat. You know, it's more than just the tiers, it's also the invitation, it's also how you treat people when they show up. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's one of our, if you kind of hear nothing else when we're talking to someone about our work and the ethos of the company, we truly believe that theater and art as a whole is communal wellness, and we want people in the audience. We never want cost to be a barrier. We never want the stigma of, oh, the performing arts are a luxury. We exist in part to dispel that and if someone is ever worried about cost, like Roberto said, like, it's never going to be, oh no, you can't come to a show because you forgot cash, or you can't Venmo us because there's no service at the performance site. We, I think also, as a young company and coming into producing work in a post and ongoing COVID moment with the nonprofit theater industry being in such a fragile, stressed moment, we have never held the notion that ticket sales are going to be the answer to financial stability. So I think that has allowed us to confidently extend the invitation always to someone, and know that we mean it genuinely.
Okay, great. So, asterisk as we look at the data. 2023 was our second year back from COVID? Second year back from COVID. We perform outside, we don't have a seat count, well, we kind of do now. People didn't know who we were or why we were there, and so what we're doing simultaneous of building our revenue is building an audience. So the data is kind of skewed in a way, but I can also explain a little bit. So 2023, as you can see, our revenue was only $3,600, which is really nothing, to be honest. Then Kate and I sat down and we're like, let's do it better. We got a new venue, we grew, our audience grew, we found the language that we're sharing with you today, and literally within 1 year, we grew, 400% revenue, yeah? And then we're like, wow, that's cool. Let's increase our average ticket price. So we didn't really change our audience size all that much from 24 to 25, but our average ticket price went up. Still the same model, but this is what we think you should pay for our shows. And the ticket price went up, and we had an 30% increase. This year, we have an estimate of $26,000, which is like off the charts compared to 2023. We started selling tickets Tuesday, this week, Monday, and we've already sold 12% of our 2023 amount. So things are working, and I wanted to say something. I think you said this, and then someone else mentioned it as well. Oh yeah, I said Serenity talked about a barrier for people who don't even consider going to the theater, and how do you get those audience members that you're interested in showing, like, this is also for you. I had a for-profit company that I worked with, I was a producer and director with in Austin, and we did this thing called favor exchanges. And we've adopted that, even though we've never talked about it, where Frank Women Collective, which is, you can read a little bit about us on Wikipedia, we would go to a museum and work box office, and we would perform at there's a place called the Museum of Human Achievement, or we would perform, outside, or we'd be the performers at a gala. It was just like, hey, we'll do this thing for you if you'll let us invite people to our shows. And what we've actually started doing, really intentionally in 2024, I think, is we party with a local farm. We go to this farm nearby, and we have just year over year been developing a relationship with the farm workers, and then the farm throws parties, and then we get invited, and then we get to talk about our work, and we give them tickets, they invite us in for free. It's pretty cool, and I think it's more of a grassroots version of community outreach, but it is a way of plugging yourself into a place you don't belong so that those people can come into your space, or know that they can. Oh, here's the 236% revenue increase from 23 to 24. I did all this, but I forgot. We have a 61% anticipated box office increase from 5 last summer to this summer, which is only an average ticket price of $2 more than last year. But $2 times X people is a lot. So last year, our average ticket price was $38.50, and there were people who showed up and paid $0. So I think what I'm trying to prove to you all, even though no one's asking me to, is that you can estimate and plan when you're building revenue schedules and your overall budget. Like, we use $38.50 as our marker when we're predicting how much money or how many tickets we're going to sell at what price. This year, for our budget as a goal, we set the goal at $40 per ticket. So hopefully we hit that. My salary's on the line.
Yeah, so these are just a couple of quotes from audience that has felt comfortable and is generous in sharing their experience of being able to access the sliding scale. So hearing that our pricing allowed a family of 4 to enjoy a night out of arts and community, that meant the world to us. It came from one of the parents just being laid off from a job and needing something that they could all do together and feel great about. And then also hearing, I'm glad that I can support the arts and enjoy them as a result, is really the goal that we're after. And as Roberto said, there are multiple instances since introducing this that people are choosing the zero cost option. And in the framework language, we're saying, in that accountability and being honest with yourself about your personal finance, if you can pay more, we ask that you please do. If you need to pay less, we ask that you please do. And removing the stigma of like somehow it's a handout or you're costing the artist something by taking a zero cost option. Our belief is if the communal ecosystem is functioning as it should, then everyone is supporting each other, and we as artists are getting to share our art, and the audience member, who's the other half of our art making, is there for it.
Yeah, at the beginning of the day, they started with, the keynote said, we believe arts are for everyone. So like, way to tie it all together, we do too. And that's why we adopted this. I was making a joke, and now I really feel like I'm obligated to share it. We were eating our sandwiches, and I said, I was like emotional that they brought an end-of-life doula to the 9:30 a.m. keynote. I was like, I don't like that. And Kate was like, oh, it was nice, it was fine. I was like, no, but like, there's so much to share. Like I have life left. Like, I'm not ready for that. I really think that like, what I want to back up, what Kate has already set up with is, a lot of people are saying, I wrote down what y'all said and made a tally mark next to every time someone repeated something. You're worried about financial accessibility, but the second thing that I wrote down and heard is that people are actually weighing 2 things: accessibility, but invitation. You're trying to figure out how to get people in. And it's not like you can say, oh, it's $0, come. People are like, I don't know about that. So you have to be very intentional, right? I had a point and I lost my train of thought. Yeah. I tell anyone who lets me have 10 seconds of their time, we'll be at the coffee shop. I was waiting for Kate or something last year, and I was yapping away, and then Kate was like, oh, who is that? I was like, I don't know. But I invited them to the show, and and last year we actually started, we got a stall at our local farmers market, and we just stand there as long as it's open, and we're like, come see our shows, sign up, here's our email list. Like, so it's literally word of mouth right now. At Yale they use big marketing firms, but I can't afford that. So.
Our organization is, for Vermont, a large organization. For the US, not a large organization. But one of the things that has struck me is that I might know what opportunities exist for people to come in and do things for less or no money. But a lot of my staff members, who are the ones who are out in the community and telling people as they buy a cup of coffee, they don't actually know how to point someone in that direction. So having it really clear on our website, so anyone who works for you can say, go to the website and it leads with financial aid, or it leads with free tickets. We've just started printing flyers to just have available next to all of our other flyers whenever we do free events out in the community. It's next to the come take a flying trapeze class, come take a silver circus class. It's one flyer that says financial aid and free opportunities. Because getting the word to the people who need to know about is, I think, just a challenge. I can tell you about it, but my 70 employees don't necessarily know how to do that. So, any ideas?
Yeah, and to that point, I think it's not unique to Vermont, but this is an experience as we're growing and figuring out what marketing looks like in our rural area, is that we have a heavy social media presence, and like we just, as our tickets just went on sale, like we did a refresher on the sliding scale for folks who have been with us for a long time, and an introduction for folks who are new. So like social media is great and everything, but like as Serenity said, what if someone doesn't have the access to it? And I found, especially growing up here, that like if you don't have a poster in your general store, do you even exist? So like that's one of the first things that we do when we start the season, and as soon as we have our materials, like the poster is going into every community board in every area that lets us put our postcards and our posters up, and we have wonderful community relationships with our incredible library and the farm. They have a stand at the farmers market, so like they'll put our poster up at their own stand. And this is the first year that like we intentionally put the sliding scale on our print materials. So it's really just like, how can you get it in front of eyes so that they know it exists, along with really chatting up everyone. And also, we had talked about this at one point in like outreach. It's been said many times today, but yes, community libraries are like, thank God. But also connecting with any and all schools available to you. One, because connecting students with art is super important. And two, because the adults at the school, if they know about the ticket options, they're able to share that with students either in like a general assembly, or in our case, if there's a theater teacher who knows that they've got some really passionate students who like would love to come see some weird queer Shakespeare, like they can pass along that information, and either if it's a teen, maybe they'll be able to come on their own, otherwise they get to go home and say to their parents, like, I really want to go see this, and there is flexible pricing available, so can we please go?
Yeah, I was gonna acknowledge also that Shakespeare in the Woods does operate with a lot of privilege, because we're not in some of your situations where you're, I think you said it, right sizing, is that what you said? Yeah, appropriate scaling or whatever. We don't have to do that. We're trying to grow. We're trying to develop audience. So we're not worried about, oh, we're overspending on admin or health benefits or retirement plans. We're not doing that. We're just like, how do we get more people? How do we communicate we are here and show up? So I do want to also say, like, we're building it from the ground up, so it is easier for us. It's not impossible. I already showed you. You can literally budget with a predictable number. And there is an obligation that we are married to, because we made the strategic decision, which is, gosh, this is complicated, to enter into a multi-year agreement with the Actors and Stage Managers Union, And so that sets minimum expenses for us. We're not allowed to pay actors below a certain number. We have to pay into the health and pension plans. We can't, if a stage manager works on 2 shows, they have to get 60% of this 160% total. It's like very specific expenses. And I think that also helps us plan in a lot of ways as well. But it is very expensive. And if you'll give me 10 seconds of your time, we have a little bit of marketing stuff. This is stuff we mailed out, but one side is tickets, how to get tickets. The other side is a definition of who we are, donor tiers, some photos, and then really cool on the other side is a collage of our photos, and it's also a poster, so you can hang in your house if you're a big fan of us. We have some of these if you want to grab them. We also have put some out there as well. But I said all of that to say part of our scaling up has been a strategy on how do we want to spend our money, our $10 that we have. And we've decided to invest in this type of thing and how to communicate out who we are and what we stand for.
Yeah, if money is not paying the artist that is the largest part of our budget. That is the highest concern of ours is making foreground, even before we started working with the union, that we're both artists, and I think even if we weren't, we would hold this ideology that art making is a job that should be valued the same way that other career paths are. And that we did not want to be bringing folks into the organization and leading with but you're getting the opportunity, so like, isn't that enough? And we're still very much working towards equitable rates, but it is a standard that we set for ourselves. So even though our budget is challenging, the passion to make sure that our artists are getting compensated for their time and their talents is the top concern. And I think that having that drive alongside with economic accessibility for audiences is the circle that we're working in, and they're kind of fueling each other, if that makes sense. I feel like, are you raising your hand?
Yeah. I don't know if there's room for questions.
We wanted to have time for questions, but
yeah, I was just going to do one sort of wrap up. Is what I'd like to reinforce is that NECA did a similar move to these sliding scale ticket prices, and we saw a similar thing happen where we actually had increased revenue because the people who could pay more did, and that offset the people who couldn't, and we had more people in the door. So I just want to suggest that if that seems like a possibility, you may not have to be making a choice between supporting the people who will come in who can't afford your product and supporting the artists who you need to pay. You may actually be able to get to do both if you can do a successful sliding scale model and adequately articulate it, which I think you did a fabulous job of why some people should pay more and some people should just come. So that's my quick wrap up. We have some questions.
Hi, thank you so much. My name is Naomi, and I'm the executive director of Grand Point Foundation, so it's Grace Potter's foundation to support creatives in rural areas, specifically Vermont. But I'm asking a question with my hat as a Vermonter, which is, do you have any models to either allow people to pay more than the top tier, and or a model for people to purchase tickets for somebody else? So like your testimony about the family that this was everything to them. I mean, if I'm at a farmer's market and somebody says this can pay for a family to be able to go to this event and I can't go, I'd happily buy tickets for them, even if I can't go to an event. So I was just wondering if you had something like that available.
I can answer for NECA. I've seen a pay it forward model where you say, and if you want to buy an extra ticket for someone who can't, and then you set that aside. So that's been something that we've had success with. The first one, if you have more money than the tier that we always have a giant donate button. And our ticketing platform, we use a company called On the Stage. There's a donate that anyone who buys a ticket can donate as part of their ticket purchase without going outside of that platform. And that's been really nice because we get often, $10, $15, $20 just tacked onto it.
I can also respond that I'm the director of the Green Mountain Film Festival, and in order for us to open tickets to people who don't typically go to the cinema, we also partner with some of our sponsors, and they will buy a block of tickets. So we still get the revenue, but then they allow us to parse it out however we want. So like AARP will buy some tickets and say, please support the elder community. So we allow that to go to the senior center members. So that's another way to also make that happen.
Hi, thanks. Thanks for the presentation, both of you, all of you. I have two questions, one for you, one for you. I'm going to just ask you quickly, but I'm going to ask them first and ask you, but it has to do with your sliding scale. So the sliding scale, I think it's a great concept. Obviously, for theater, I think it makes sense because you're charging people admission to come to the theater. And I know you said you added that. And I was going to add, my second question is, do you notice a difference between your free programs and your sliding scale, the number of audiences? But I was reading your descriptions, and I like the idea that people are self-evaluating themselves, and they feel really good. The top three were really positive, but the last one had a lot of no's, like, I can't afford, I don't pay, I don't have, I blah, 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 blah. And I'm wondering if you thought about that language at all, and did you notice any effect of that? Because I felt like, when I was reading it, it felt like that last section, the $0 to $15 one was, people might feel shame that they can't afford to come. Is there maybe another way to talk about that?
I'm sure there is. I've never received that feedback, so it's a good note to hear right now. Yeah?
Yeah, I think, I love that question, and I think as someone who teeters between that tier and the 25 to 40, I personally, the first time that I got to read that language that Alexis helped form, I felt relief in it because I feel like there is a lot of shame around money, and if you're struggling, and so I experienced relief of like, well, it's kind of spelled out for me, and there is an option that I feel like is an invitation to not feel like I shouldn't be part of this. But that's my personal experience with it, and I think that it's very helpful to hear. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
In defense of that language, too, I thought you did a really good job of saying, I have this situation, I succeed a lot of times, but I can't always succeed. I thought that was good because...
Sorry. I just generally thought your language was awesome, actually. And including that last one, too, that's the hardest one. That's the hardest one to articulate. And I just want to note that I thought you did a good job of creating a circumstance and creating the image of somebody who is trying and succeeding a lot of the time, but not always succeeding. I think that's basically what the language said, so, yeah.
Thank you both for sharing.
And so, can you answer?
Yep, I can answer the other question. Most of our free shows are actually out in the community and not actually ticketed. One challenge we find is when we do free shows in a space that has a certain number of seats, and we still need people to come in and ticket. So the barrier there is often just the ability to register in advance. So we try to really build into our programming shows where we just go out and people can just find us on the street, essentially. But to this language question, it's never occurred to me, but there may be a desire for anonymity for someone purchasing or registering at that lower tier, and that might be something to consider.
I just want I'll lose the plot if I don't say it. I can't remember if it was in a slide, but it is important to note in our framework explanation, we don't ask for any kind of income verification to be able to choose a tier. That's might sound obvious, but I think the first time I ever encountered pay what you wish or pay what you can, or I'm sure we all have like farm stands that are on the honor system near us and whatnot. The first time I ever encountered a ticket system, it did ask for income verification. And that immediately created shame and fear. So being able to state that very clearly, and obviously like the two of us are the only people who see inside the ticket sale portal. And you can purchase a ticket and you could put anonymous as your name, or so there are options. I hope that make people feel confident and comfortable taking, again, whatever tier they need.
I'm just going to add to your comment. I think that the addition of your personal invitation, and I think just to simplify the spiel about sliding scale, if someone's asking at the door, it's like, even if it's out of your budget, we have 550 seats to fill. Like, I want you here, and also the question of paying it forward. Our sliding scale tiers have names where one, it might be 25 depending on the show. This is the cost. It's impossible to say the cost because we have so many seats and we don't know how many people are showing up. But like, okay, yeah, 25 is a reasonable price. This is suggested. 35 is like, pay it forward. 45 is, you're a sustainer or a sponsor or forget the language, but then, a little less and a little less, and we want you to be, just like that reinforcement of like, this is for you, there's no shame. And I think it takes time for people to like get used to this as a model.
I totally agree with that. There's two things I wanted to say. One is, the person left. Well, yes, you can pay more than $100 for our tickets, that's the answer. You can also pay it forward. And we intentionally reach out to offer tickets to organizations, like queer organizations specifically, or advocacy orgs in Vermont. So that's another thing, we like throw tickets at people. I agree with you, it does take a lot of time, it takes learning, and also like if you're there for the long term, as you've been there 50 years, you said, this organization, then like, don't rush. Like genuinely build that relationship. And the problem, which you're all probably acutely aware of, is that we're facing even already is the cost disease, which is even with the advent of AI, the AI learning models that we have now, making theater doesn't get cheaper. It's not like you can manufacture it faster and then it lowers the cost. It still takes X amount of weeks to rehearse a play. It still takes this many people to do this many parts. So the expense will never, right now, seems to not ever be going down, only up. So I think finding ways to actually try to predict how many tickets you will sell at what price, and that's where we're basing our true costs at.
So it's actually after 4:15, and we go to 4:15. Is that?
We go to 4:30.
For 30. Great. Do we have other questions?
Can I jump in real quick? I stole the mic, you just can't see me, I'm behind you, thank you. Sorry. So Serenity, you may be able to speak to this, and I don't know if Shakespeare in the Woods can, but curious about in a nonprofit model, if you've noticed with the sliding scale that it has affected individual giving or end of year support, and curious how that sort of plays in, because I imagine that the sort of higher ticket prices for a for-profit model would allow for essentially a donation, which is what a nonprofit expects, but I'm curious the impact on that.
Because I'm actually in charge of development at NECA now, I have not seen that it has had an impact. My hunch is that the people who are giving when they buy a ticket are different than the people who are on my end of year giving plan. I think that the people who are giving when they buy a ticket are actually new donors, and so that it's an opportunity to actually grow my donor base. That's completely guessing and hypothetical, but I feel like it's a different group of people. Where we have had some success, and this is sort of shifting to, we offer classes and a teaching thing, it's not just tickets that we sell, is that two things have happened. One, no empty slots. Like if there is an empty spot in a class or a workshop, we try to give that away. Those are sunk costs. I'm not going to get a new student who signs up for a $500 workshop 3 days before the workshop, but I can go out in the community and offer that spot to someone else for free. And so it doesn't increase my expenses, but it does increase the people who I get in the door. And that takes action by the person who runs those programs. So we've had to tell our program directors that they are actively on the phone trying to fill those slots. They are watching their enrollment. The other thing that we've had some success with is developing relationships with specific donors that we know care about individuals and that they actually give targeted sponsorships. So in our year 3 professional training program, we have a lot of students who no longer have a cushion of money to pay for their 3rd year of circus college. And so they're debating whether or not they can stay in this circus college for 1 more year. So I've gone out to specific donors who really care about the profession of circus, and I've said, do you want to offer a direct Shining Star scholarship to 4 students so that they can continue? And I've had some success with that. Again, that's sort of really developing a relationship with a donor to cover that. So there's many different ways to get at this, but I haven't seen that there's been any conflict between the two.
I wanted to offer something as well. We do solicit donations. Thank you, Center for Arts and Learning, for allowing us to do that. We have only, it's also, again, we're in this privileged place of like growing our audience and donor base, so we haven't seen it decrease, we've seen an increase. 2 things. One is we've had new ticket buyers buy at tier 2 or tier 3, come see the shows, and then be like, oh wow, and then donate to meet the higher ticket price. And then we also now get to see, oh, who bought the tier 4 tickets? Let's ask them for more money. So it's actually an indicator for us in soliciting donations. And then Ed, I think you had.
I think there was a tack on to something.
I did have a question to you, Serenity, about.
So I'm interested in this model where you have an empty space and you fill it. That seems like a direct way to create accessibility to programs that are otherwise expensive to run. You mentioned the cost of that being staff time as a dedicated person to have those relationships. Do you have any, do you have like a dedicated person just to that job? I doubt it, but it's probably somebody's role within another job. I don't know how you would quantify this, but is there a way of articulating kind of what the cost of the organization is to have that, and whose role is it, and how much time does it take?
Yeah, in our organization we have program directors, so we have a camp program director, so it's her job to fill those spots. And she's on salary, so in theory it's just does she have the time in a day. We do have an outreach coordinator that we pay hourly, and then that is definitely, we have to attend to how much that costs us, but we are committed to it. So hopefully our annual fundraising will cover that. So it's a culture at our organization where we say we care about that and we want you to spend the time. If there's an empty spot, we feel there's a failure there. So.
It's a question, it's also a little bit of an anecdote. In situ, Polyculture has run our residencies as a sliding scale since we began. Doing the sliding scale model was really important to us, just for accessibility from the get-go. And it's interesting because sliding scale for asking artists to pay for the opportunity to come do residency is quite different from offering a sliding scale to the public to come and patronize the arts. So I feel like super big props to anyone who's adopting sliding scale because it's really important, but we always have to be differentiating between who are we asking them to choose on the sliding scale, and sliding scale for direct pay from artists for opportunities is quite different from that like ticketed client base. So the small anecdote is we partner with a venue in Brattleboro for some of our performing artists to go off-site and offer to the community their amazing work. And they do sliding scale for some of their shows. And I know that they have not had the same level of success that you are indicating. And I think it's mostly because of the lack of clarity and education and narrative about why sliding scale matters and what the different tiers are. We've had this happen also, where we have the sliding scale and we encourage people to pay what they can, and we try to give an indication about these tiers. And we've definitely had a really rich person who would brag about their wealth pay on the low end of the scale. And when that happens, it feels like the system doesn't work. But that is definitely the exception, I find, in our 4 years of sliding scale fees from artists. And we are always encouraging artists to pay less, right? Like sort of encouraging them to sort of come in at the lowest end of the tier, and they insist on generosity. And I think building that kind of culture with artists and with the public who are supporting and patronizing the arts is amazing. So big brava.
I want to speak to that a little bit. We had a situation where we offered sort of a sliding scale for one of our programs, and everyone was picking the lowest tier. And then when we went back and looked at the website, the lowest tier was the first thing that showed up. And then you had to kind of scroll down to find that you could actually pay the next tier. So we found that we wanted the normal tier to be the highest tier, and then you could opt out and take a discount. So the way you structure it definitely has a reference to how people use it. And I'm curious, our ticketing platform called On the Stage makes it really easy to do sliding scale tickets. What is your platform, and is it easy?
So we use Theater Engine, which I think is based out of Vermont. It's definitely a New England platform.
It's out of Northfield, Vermont.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And we kind of happened into using them starting in 2022, where I don't know if there was more than just this one guy, but he's awesome, and he actually emailed us and was like, do you need a theater ticket platform? I started this thing and would love for you to use it. And so we went with that. And it has gotten progressive with every year we've used it. It's the interface, thank you, has gotten better and more streamlined, both for us to use and for the public to interact with. They have a specific, like, when you're setting up the tickets, there are two tabs that you can select from, and one is like a fixed price, and the other one says pay what you can, and then you can enter in whatever you're calling the tiers, and then there's a minimum that you set for it, and if you want, you can set suggested or maximum. So since we have these high-low prices for our different tiers, that's what it says. And then also to the question that was asked about, like, can people pay more than $100? Absolutely. Like, when someone's selecting that ticket, they then enter in what they're going to pay within the tier scale or beyond $100. So it's pretty easy. And I think more and more ticket platforms are making it as flexible to make that option available.
That's good. It is just one guy and his coder.
And he's great. He's so great.
I know, because I wrote a news article about it. So I just want to say it's 4:30. Reception is starting now at 14th Star. If you want to go, we can stay here for a little bit longer if you want. I know there are 3 questions in the audience. I think that if you want to take them, so maybe what we'll do is we'll just pass the mic for those 3 questions, and then you guys can answer whichever ones work for you. Okay?
Great, perfect. So my venue gets a lot of people that do not buy tickets in advance and show up 10 minutes before the thing starts, and they want to pay their credit card or cash right at the door. How do you balance having a 4+ or 3, I've done a 3-tiered system, you have a 4-tiered system. How do you balance explaining that, but also getting people in the door and explaining it the right way when it's just 1 or 2 people selling tickets and you need to start your show on time?
Print it out.
Quick use case for my venue. So one factor is that I can only seat 49 people, so there's kind of a limit to how many tickets can be sold. And then the other part is that the bands that perform, I offer a door deal, so a percentage of the ticket sales. So my struggle has been, how can I discuss with the performers that their income is based on a sliding scale model? So even figuring out how many people will be there, but then also how much those people will pay, will determine what they get paid by the end of the day.
I don't have an easy answer to that, but I think there might be a way for you to set aside like 10 seats and just have an arrangement with the bands that 10 of those seats are going to be sliding scale. I'm not sure how that works on your platform for ticket sales, but that might be a way to encourage both of those. I don't know.
Do you offer a minimum of your house? Like if you say we guarantee 20, no, that would be the only thing I could think of as well, is like enticing people by saying we can guarantee a minimum amount of this much, and then have flexibility of going up in terms of profit share. Sure. Yeah.
You could also, it's not quite the same, but have free standby tickets. Mm-hmm. But that's not quite as easy to get people to come and utilize that if they're not sure they're going to get a seat. So, did we have another question?
Okay. So yes, as you heard us say, having that information streamlined, printed, or displayed clearly at whatever your box office looks like. Our box office is a table like this, with very clear signage on the grounds of our venue. And there are those like standing clear sign holder thingies that have the sliding scale language in it, and then obviously having a friendly, clear, and concise box office person who is able to like help guide through that and not make anyone feel rushed, but it's like, this is our ticketing price, and then cash. We do cash, Venmo, PayPal, or a check. So yeah, just having the information available, and then being able to have someone who can confidently guide someone through it, and maybe just hit the bullet points if you're like, oh, we're supposed to start in like 2 minutes. We have the tier language, those 4 bullet points clearly outlined. Yeah.
Thank you everybody for coming.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it.